New York State of the State 2026, Governor Kathy Hochul. The Constitution of New York State requires the governor to deliver an annual message to the legislature regarding the state of the state. The state of the state proposals are the first step in defining the governor's agenda in 2026. Additional policies and funding details will be included in the upcoming governor's executive budget. Forward. Fellow New Yorkers, over the past 4 years, I've traveled to every corner of this state, listening to your stories, walking your neighborhoods, and learning what it really means to build a life here. Those conversations with parents, workers, students, business owners, seniors have shaped every decision I've made as governor. They've also made one thing unmistakably clear. New Yorkers are resilient, ambitious, and deeply committed to this state. But too many families are still under real strain. The cost of living is high. The pace of change is relentless. And decisions being made far beyond our borders are increasingly shaping daily life here at home. That's why I've said from the beginning, your family is my fight, and in this moment, when the future feels full of promise, but under real threat, your future is my fight as well. Together, we have taken state emerging from crisis and power to come back that few believed was possible. We've driven down crime and strengthened public safety where New Yorkers feel it most. We've secured the most significant housing reforms in half a century, built long-neglected infrastructure, and made historic investments in clean energy, advanced manufacturing, and the technologies shaping the global economy. We've expanded childcare, lowered costs for working families, protected access to healthcare, and defended fundamental rights when they came under attack. You can see the results across New York. Our streets are busier. Our businesses are growing. Long-stalled projects are moving forward. Confidence is back. New York isn't just recovering. New York is rising. But progress is not guaranteed, and it does not sustain itself. It has to be built on a foundation that's strong enough to last. That's why we've been careful and disciplined in how we invest. Thanks to a strong economy and responsible financial management, we're able to make historic investments in housing, infrastructure, and opportunity without raising taxes on working families or saddling the next generation with debt. We've strengthened our reserves, reduced long-term liabilities, and protected New York's fiscal health so we can keep delivering for families today and decades from now. That strength matters because the road ahead will test it. Today, New York faces serious headwinds. Reckless federal actions are pushing up costs, threatening jobs, and putting critical investments at risk. Efforts to divide, exclude, and roll back hard-won rights are testing the values that have long defined our state. And too many families are still asking the same fundamental questions. Can we afford to build our future here? This book is our answer. The 2026 State of the State agenda is grounded in a simple belief: government should make life more affordable, keep people safe, and expand opportunity, not shrink it. It says actionable plans to meet the challenges families face today while preparing New York for the road ahead. That starts with affordability. From a concrete roadmap to universal childcare, to lowering energy bills, protecting customers and consumers, and confronting the rising costs that hit working families hardest. It means continuing to invest in public safety with strategies that work, including targeted enforcement, cutting-edge technology, and a mental health system that treats people with dignity while keeping communities secure. It means building faster and smarter, whether we're talking about homes, infrastructure, clean energy, or the industries of the future, while respecting communities and protecting our environment. And it means defending fundamental rights, not just in words, but in law, ensuring access to healthcare, safeguarding trusted public health standards, strengthening food security, and standing firm against efforts that tear families and communities apart. At its core, this agenda reflects a choice about who we want to be. New York has never been a state that shrinks from big challenges. When we and the nation have tested, from Saratoga to Seneca Falls, from Stonewall to Ground Zero, New Yorkers have stepped forward. We don't back down. We build, we fight, and we lead. The state of the state is not a wish list. It is a blueprint rooted in lived experience, shaped by hard lessons, and driven by belief that our best days, are still ahead, because your family is my fight, and your future is my fight. Governor Kathy Hochul, January 2026. Chapter 1, Making New York More Affordable. Affordability isn't a statistic, it's a balancing act. Every day, New Yorkers have contend with how much things cost: rent, bills, groceries, basics, tariffs and taxes go up. Lives change, like with the birth of a child, and we have to rebalance it all over again. Governor Hochul is committed to making New York a place where all families can afford to live. Since taking office, she has moved aggressively to put money back where it belongs, in the pockets of working people. Her administration has cut middle class taxes to their lowest rates in 70 years, ensuring families keep more of the money they earn. Raised New York's minimum wage and tied future increases to inflation so a day's work covers a day's needs. Tripled the tax credit for children, providing families up to $1,000 per child under the age of 4 beginning in 2026, and up to $500 for school-aged children beginning in 2027. Made school meals free to every student, saving families $1,600 per child per year, and making sure no child goes hungry at school. Sent inflation refund checks to 8.2 million New Yorkers, up to $200 for individuals and up to $400 for families. Increased the maximum weekly unemployment benefit by $300 a week so people can focus on finding work, not keeping the lights on. In 2026, Governor Hochul is doubling down on these efforts in ways that people can feel. By committing to universal childcare across the state, cheaper auto and home insurance, more affordable housing, lower energy bills, and bolstered programs that help put food on the table, she's building a state that works for the people who work for a living. Providing universal childcare. Access to high-quality, affordable childcare is foundational to the well-being and success of New York's children, parents, and economy. Across New York State, families are grappling with crushingly high childcare costs that can amount to an average of $20,000 per year per family. This means that a family needs to earn upwards of $285,000 to afford childcare in New York, under federal affordability guidelines, placing reliable, quality care well beyond the reach of most working families. Costs can deflate a family's hard-won savings, force decisions between putting food on the table and paying for childcare, and pull parents, especially moms, away from contributing to the economy. Nearly a third of women in New York City leave the workforce due to lack of affordable childcare options. Studies show that implementing universal affordable childcare in New York could increase labor force participation by as many as 28,000 additional workers, leading to as much as $1.6 billion in additional wages across the state. Governor Hochul has spent the past 4 years taking aggressive steps to expand access to and funding for childcare in New York State. Now she is putting New York on a path to universal childcare statewide through a comprehensive plan that recognizes family preferences for childcare options, supports a wide ecosystem of childcare providers, spanning from traditional daycare centers to smaller, home-based providers that provide flexible, affordable care for families, and supports the expansion of pre-K across the state. Over time, the state will continue to build its childcare capacity, invest in the childcare workforce, and identify opportunities to enlist employers as partners to create a comprehensive system that serves the needs of families across the state. This builds on the administration's efforts to date and recommendations from the state's Child Care Availability Task Force. Since taking office, Governor Hochul has taken dramatic steps to expand access to affordable childcare for families, laying the groundwork for implementation of universal childcare statewide. Specifically under her leadership, the state already has more than doubled the number of children served by childcare vouchers in just 4 years, with close to 25% increases in the past 12 months alone. Provided more than $8.6 billion for childcare, including more than doubling funding for childcare vouchers for New York families. Dramatically expanded the number of families who are eligible for vouchers by increasing the maximum income from 200% of the federal poverty level, roughly $64,000 for a family of 4, to the maximum allowed under federal law, 85% of statewide median income, roughly $114,000 for a family of four today. Made childcare more affordable by reducing the amount paid by those receiving vouchers by capping costs at $15 per week for most families. Increased reimbursement rates for childcare providers by nearly 50%, helping providers retain staff and provide quality care for children across the state. Supported the future creation of thousands of childcare seats and new centers through more than $150 million in capital funding. Combined, these investments have helped rescue a critical sector ravaged by the pandemic, while supporting the expansion of access to childcare for tens of thousands of new families across the state. In 2026, Governor Hochul is putting New York State on a pathway toward achieving universal, affordable childcare, beginning with committing to investments that will deliver affordable child care to nearly 100,000 additional children. The governor's landmark investment will increase funding by $1.7 billion on top of the significant increases previously made, and make a critical down payment towards ensuring statewide universal access to pre-kindergarten for 4-year-olds, supporting the state's early childhood workforce, and partnering with New York City to launch a nation-first 2Care program, and finally realizing the promise of universal access to 3K in New York City. This funding will support a diverse set of counties to build out a new demonstration projects that offer truly universal care, reaching tens of thousands of more families with vouchers for affordable care. Alongside these commitments, the governor will also launch an Office of Child Care and Early Education to steer the implementation of high-quality universal child care for New York families. Achieving truly universal pre-K. Governor Hochul is extending the promise of universal pre-K to 4-year-olds across New York State by start of the 2028-2029 school year for all families who want this option for their child. While many children across the state are already participating in early learning opportunities through existing pre-K programs, too many families don't have the opportunity to access high-quality pre-K. As a result, families may be forced to pay for otherwise cover another year of care for their children. To ensure districts and educators across the state have resources that they need to provide high-quality pre-K in response to family preference, Governor Hochul will significantly increase the state's contribution for pre-K seats, both for 115,000 existing seats and for new seats that increase access going forward, by creating a uniform statewide pre-K grant funded at the higher of either $10,000 or the district's current selected foundation aid per pupil. This administration will ensure that all districts have resources needed to recruit educators, maintain quality, and meet local demand. Universal pre-K has demonstrated to transform the lives of participating children and parents. Children participating in pre-K programs show higher rates of both kindergarten readiness and long-term academic achievement, including graduation rates, according to several longitudinal studies. As to parents, one study of universal pre-K access found that pre-K programs boosted parental earnings by over 20%, noting that each dollar dedicated to pre-K returned $10 in societal benefits. This pre-K expansion reflects a commitment to approximately $500 million and will ensure that every child in New York State has the opportunity to enter kindergarten ready to learn. Launching 2Care for New York City families. New York City has already launched universal pre-K and 3K, and Governor Hochul will partner with the city to launch an unprecedented initiative to offer entirely free childcare for 2-year-olds within New York City, serving all children, including students with disabilities and English language learners. The governor will offer state support to pilot and then scale 2Care to reach all eligible children within 4 years of launch. Initial pilots will focus on high-need areas selected by New York City and will be expected to reach approximately Initial pilots will focus on high-need areas selected by NYC and will be expected to reach approximately 2,000 children this fall, growing to over 30,000 children at full implementation. 2Care promises to have a transformative impact on reducing families' costs, expanding care options, and setting New York City's children on a trajectory towards a brighter future. Reaching universal 3K access within New York City. In addition to the launch of 2Care in New York City, the governor will partner with the city to strengthen the city's 3K program. 3K has been a lifeline to the families it has served, linking high-quality seats to families navigating the costs and scarcity of childcare across New York City. However, it has faced challenges in implementation and faces pockets where supply outstrips demand. To achieve 3K's promise of offering universal access to neighborhood options for families and reducing costs for families across the city, Governor Hochul and the city will partner to strengthen the program to meet demand. Continuing to expand the Child Care Assistance Program for families statewide. Under Governor Hochul's leadership, New York has expanded access to and more than doubled the state investments in the Child Care Assistance Program, CCAP, which provides subsidies to help low-income families across the state access childcare. By dramatically increasing the state's funding for the program while expanding eligibility to more New York families, the program now supports 2.5 times more children. An additional 100,000 children than when Governor Hochul took office. The number of children served has increased by almost 25% in the past year alone. Most of the families of the 170,000 children served by the program pay no more than $15 a week for the child care. This year, Governor Hochul will continue to grow the state's investment in the CCAP program with $1.2 billion increased investments, bringing the total available for subsidies to over $3 billion. This is 3.5 times more than the $832 million provided prior to the governor taking office, and nearly 40% increases from what was made available in the fiscal year 2026 enacted budget. This will provide families and child care providers across the state additional support to serve more New York's children. Piloting innovative community care models. In 2026, Governor Hochul will launch innovative new pilot projects for families and children in a limited number of counties across the state that are also eager to launch childcare in more expansive ways in their communities. These counties will join a New York State demonstration project designated to support counties in working towards universal access across their community, regardless of income. Programs will be a joint collaboration among participating counties, local child care coordinating entities, and across New York State. Child care providers in chosen jurisdictions will be able to enter into contracts that are drawn down on state and local funding. This structure will help facilitate providers to sustainability. This structure will facilitate providers to sustainably expand their capacity to reach more families and counties to help ensure that care is meeting family needs. These pilots will offer opportunities to serve all families in selected counties without the administrative hurdle of means testing. Helping defray child care costs by overhauling the Child and Dependent Care Tax Credit. New York State's Child and Dependent Care Tax Credit helps put money back in families' pockets by reimbursing for the cost of child care. Last year alone, the credit provided nearly $100 million to families across the state, helping alleviate the enormous cost of childcare. With recent federal changes impacting the equivalent federal credit, Governor Hochul will seek legislation that will uncouple New York State's credit from the federal tax code so that it can be expanded and simplified. These changes will provide an additional average benefit of roughly $575 for roughly 230,000 tax filers. These changes will offer a lifeline to families across the state, helping further alleviate the crush of childcare costs. Launching the Office of Child Care and Early Education to drive universal child care. As New York State continues to prioritize care and learning for our youngest New Yorkers, Governor Hochul will launch a new Office of Child Care and Early Education that will be charged with driving the implementation of high-quality universal child care in New York State. The office will manage and support long-term planning with a focus on both access and quality, including implementation of universal pre-K, continued investment in 3K, launch of New York City 2Care, and other innovative care options, expansion and improvement of CCAP, and ongoing support for the workforce. The office will ensure quality even as access grows, serving as a single accountable body for the implementation of universal child care across the state level and elevating the ongoing importance of this work. Supporting our farmers, families, and children. New York's farming community is dependent on hardworking families who sustain our food system. To ensure these children have a safe, nurturing place to grow while their parents are in the fields, Hochul will increase New York's commitment to the Agribusiness Child Development ABCD centers, a network of 13 centers that provide 1,000 children with childcare, nutritious meals, and a foundation for lifelong learning. Increasing these centers' capacities will also provide parents with essential resources like assistance lines and family support services. Making it easier to provide childcare. Childcare programs are regulated through multiple state and local agencies, leading to overlapping and potentially conflicting regulatory challenges. Collectively, these processes make it more difficult and expensive to open, run, and staff childcare centers at a moment when the state needs to be working to increase supply. Governor Hochul will ensure state-level agencies do a full review of relevant regulations and policies to ensure that the state reduces barriers that make it harder to provide childcare, while also ensuring rigorous safety standards and fiscal oversight, and will ask localities to do the same. The governor will also provide guidance and support to localities interested in adapting their own regulations and policies to better accommodate and expand high-quality childcare. Engaging with employers as partners. Many of New York's employers are eager to address the childcare needs of their employees and are trying innovative approaches of their own, from subsidies to reduce the costs of care for their workforce to on-site childcare. In order to bring more employers to the table on childcare, the state is also undertaking a thorough review of existing tax incentives for employers with the goal of helping them better serve the childcare needs of their employees. Supporting the workforce through early childhood education preparation. Governor Hochul plans to strengthen New York's early childhood education workforce by focusing on a multi-tiered effort to expand access to funding, credentials, and training pathways. The proposals include expanding the Master's in Education teacher incentive scholarship, increasing the number of teachers benefiting, and making the program work for early childhood educators. In addition to open more low-cost options for these educators, New York will seek to classify early childhood education as an in-demand occupation for purposes of program eligibility for new federal workforce Pell Grants when available, and expand part-time tuition assistance program TAP aid for students in approved non-degree teaching and childcare programs. In addition to expanding access to different age streams, Governor Hochul will direct SUNY and CUNY to embed the Child Care Development Associate Credential, where applicable, within credit-bearing early childhood programs. She will also charge them with establishing a unified system for recognizing prior learning and experience among early childhood workforce, many of whom have been doing this work without recognition for decades. Excuse me. Finally, SUNY and CUNY will be directed to develop micro-credentials in inclusive education and multilingual literacy to better prepare the workforce for a broader set of learners. Boosting awareness for the tax credit for children, CTC, child tax credit. New York's 2026 budget included a historic expansion of the state's child tax credit, also known as the Empire State Child Credit, ESCC, providing critical financial support for more than 2.75 million children statewide. This latest expansion increases the credit from $330 per child to $1,000 annually per child under 4 starting in 2026, and to $500 per child aged 4 to 16 starting in 2027, which represent the largest increases in the credit history. These enhancements can help defray the cost of childcare to put more food on the table and help families save. To ensure as many New Yorkers as possible benefit from the expanded credit, Governor Hochul will take a whole-of-government approach to ensuring that eligible individuals are accessing the full benefit of a credit that can help them transform lives.